Hey gang, we're rounding in on CitCon coming up, let's see, next weekend, next Saturday. Wow, that is coming up fast. Just as kind of a quick aside, we are going to be doing a live stream with the Carnival Caravan. Uh, should be a good time if you want to drop in and watch that. Okay, well, let's see what CIG is highlighting as we move into the formerly big event, but which is now only 2 hours. Lot of promising stuff in the AI realm, not just the AI content team. And it seems like we might finally be getting some of those background things that aren't really needed necessarily, but would go a long way towards making the verse feel like a living, breathing thing. Let's get into it. The AI content team had 3 general focuses in September. The first was NPCs around LZs, which anyone who uses Laravel knows probably needs some help. While we rarely get the chair standards these days, we don't have very lively NPCs either. It sounds like they're going to start utilizing some of the behaviors they piloted in the hospitals during the last couple regen events and start pushing that out into the LZs and presumably the wider verse eventually. They mention having shopkeepers be more interactive, hopefully more than "I'm not even supposed to be here today" and other throwaway lines, but also an ominous line of making better use of guards. So that's interesting. The AI content team also worked on comms calls, interactions with NPCs, and face-to-face interactions with mission givers. Keeping up the theme of good things to come, maybe one day, the AI features team is working on a couple things that could make assaulting a bunker or settlement of NPCs a bit hairier. For example, they're working on the NPCs to use pistols and then switch it out for a rocket launcher. Yeah, that'll be a thing. This came along with a focus of making sure NPCs could actually see vehicles. I don't know how many of you are like me and roll up on bunkers in an Ursa or MTC and are just lighting up the NPC guards with impunity. Yeah, it would seem like those days might be numbered. They also worked on NPCs being able to follow each other and stick close to their leader in combat, as well as being able to use cover as they're doing so. This is coming with a focus on buddy behaviors, which seem to be mostly combat focused at the moment, and that's not actually a huge surprise given that this is likely being ported over from Squadron 42, but it might also suggest that the whole NPCs as passengers thing isn't too far off. They also mentioned AI for the new critter, which now has the name of a Yormandi. This appears to be a giant snake or worm-like critter with a semi-dragon-like head. Seems like they're pulling some of the behaviors off the Valakar, but they also mentioned locations later, so this thing might be more forest or cave-based? Guess we'll be finding out. Still no word on storm walls, boreal stalkers, or the pyrocrab. I guess for now, we just have to be satisfied with the Crusader ads shouting at us from various station billboards. AI tech is trying to spin up NPCs using elevators and trains, which is interesting. Hopefully that drops with the transit changes, or it could be a disaster. They're working on pathfinding in flight, and I'm starting to wonder if we might see that ArcCorp we saw in the demo and in the trailers, with the skies full of NPC ships flying all over the place and big crowds milling about. No sign of that yet, but it does seem like they're trying to lay the groundwork. Lots of updates and work on perception by AI and prioritizing targets and actions. Sounds like they're also working on crashes and hammering out bugs throughout the AI system, so the year of stability continues. This team seems mostly focused on optimizing and working with Mission System 2.0. That's the one that should organically generate missions and build in different types locally. So if you go on Mission X one time, you might get a totally different experience the next time you select it. As usual, big name for this group, but light on the details. Animation on a new boss fight and, get this, alongside a new mission giver. So will the creature be a pet of the mission giver? Are we rescuing the mission giver from the critter? I'm not sure how that would work in an MMO environment. I've said this before, like with Maelstrom. Like a lot of this, I guess we'll be finding out real soon. So people betting that Nyx is coming soon, here's another little hint that they dropped, saying they worked on animations for multiple upcoming releases, including a returning air traffic control voice. For those who don't know, Edlin was the air traffic controller for Levski. He kind of fit the personality of that place, so I'm looking forward to him coming back and saying, "Go ahead, I'll launch." Him and Rekko. Wait, maybe Rekko is that mission giver? They better not be menacing a fellow ginger with a giant snake dragon. That's not okay. Where was I? Animation. Right. Lots of mocap work for October, so I imagine that's for CitCon, but mocap? What kind of 2-hour show is this going to be exactly? Maybe it's going to be a demo walkthrough rather than the interviews with devs and occasional B-roll. I have no idea. Sounds like they're working on new armors for a new gang, which is interesting. We have several gangs in Pyro, and Stand for that matter, that haven't really been fleshed out with their specific armors, but I also wouldn't call any of them new. So maybe this is a Levski or Nyx in general gang, and they, of course, are working on the Yormandi, so that snake dragon is likely very much on the cusp of dropping into the game. And they're working on new armors. Probably the 3 we'll be getting in that CitCon digital goodies pack, if I had to guess. Yeah, here's the one most people are here for. They start off by saying the Aurora update is hitting its final stages, so there's a real chance that we'll be seeing that at IAE or maybe even CitCon. Again, it sounds like they're tweaking some things rather than doing a full rework. I imagine some of its geometry will have to change a little, but don't expect us to have, say, a micro Dorito flying around. Same treatment for the Hammerhead, and it sounds like the Idris asset pack made the Hammerhead's update a little bit easier, but it still sounds like the Hammerhead might be a little further out, just given that it's a bigger, more complex ship. Okay, let's get into the good stuff. The Paladin hit LOD 0 in September, which means it's pretty much good to go for CitCon. Well, okay, little break from the flow here, and I'll just do these guys out of order. They talked about 2 other unannounced ships, which we now have a pretty good idea of the 3 or maybe 4 that'll be dropping at CitCon. Sounds safe that the Vanduul Stinger, at least an Asperia version of it, will be dropping into the game for CitCon and is one of the unannounced ships. It's probably the one with the weird animations that I've been thinking to this point might be a Xi'an ship. Usually at CitCon, we get 3 ships, a starter or starter adjacent ship. That's usually something under or right around $100. And it sounds like that might be the gray market Shiv, which we don't really know what it is. I think Execute with the info runners is probably on the right track, thinking it's that mashup of the Mustang and Hornet. Anyways, a Shiv is a small improvised knife that I had to use in prison. That is used in prison, allegedly. In the mid-range, that's probably going to be the Paladin, which, if I remember right, it's around the $260 to $300 range. Probably, I think it is $260 on launch, and I would not be shocked if it's around $300 now. And that leaves the Stinger in the large or just expensive range. It's roughly the equivalent, the Vanduul equivalent of the Vanguard, wider, but probably not longer, and probably has a crew of about 2 to 3 people. But like all Vanduul ships, it has an insane number of huge guns. Think 4 or 5 size 5 guns, and then some smaller guns, and a ton of missiles tossed into the mix. I'll just put it this way. The Prowler is just a stealth dropship around the same size, and it runs almost $450. This thing, being combat focused, will probably be pushing $600, maybe more. As much as a Hammerhead, which clocks in at 725? Maybe. Anyways, those are all three that are likely be dropping as the big three for CitCon. But the ships team also mentions a variant of a popular recent release. Given all the winks and nods that came with the Wolf release, it seems pretty safe that this thing is a laser version of the Wolf. Probably not a kit like a lot of you are guessing, but I also wouldn't rule a kit out. I wouldn't be shocked to see it drop at CitCon or be held back as the starter ship level for IAE. So it sounds like all four of these ships, the Stinger, the Gray Market Shiv, the Paladin, and this likely what's a Wolf, are all ready to drop imminently. So if we don't see them at CitCon, they're coming for IAE. Let's get into known ships, like ships that we definitely know they're working on because they mention them by name. The Whole B will probably be out of white box by October's monthly report, as it sounds like it's cruising along. Again, the Whole B is in an awesome spot cargo-wise. It's a solo ship, but it carries more cargo than the Argo Raft. It's kind of a perfect medium hauler, and I think it'll be stupidly popular when it drops sometime next year. The Ironclad and the command module, which they keep mentioning as a separate thing, which makes me think they might drop it as its own thing eventually, are closing in on the white box, gray box barrier. So probably on target for Invictus of next year, if I had to guess, like the March sale or around that time. They kept tweaking on the Apollo, which, yeah, that's pretty typical. They usually drop a ship on us, see what we do with us, let us catch some of its issues, make some tweaks, and call it good. The Perseus hit Lot 0, so yeah, that one's likely a go for IAE. And the Kraken has officially hit the white box phase. Given they have a pretty solid asset pack for Drake, I don't think CitCon or IAE of next year is beyond the pale for this ship's release. They wrapped it up with talk about one ship airing gray box and another airing white box. No other details, so those two remain in blue sky territory for now. Start looking for kidneys to sell for a Stinger. Not your kidneys. Ship Showdown, Racer Stanton, Pirate Week, Treasure Hunts, Q&As, Bar Seasons. Yeah, community team has been pretty busy this year. Going along with medical gameplay, Core Gameplay is working on the take and place animations, which until they mentioned it, yeah, those interactions are kind of wonky. They also focused on medical bugs and quality of life, mostly having to do with the medical kiosk screen. They're still working on engineering. If the latest PTU build is to be believed, it sounds like they're going to start implementing engineering crafting and probably building pretty quickly into the next year. They worked on inventory and AI using the new flight mechanics, like the flight control surfaces. Also, it sounds like the new flight model is going to start to be ported in pretty aggressively. And that makes a lot of sense with Squadron 42 likely on the horizon. With Tony Z flying the nest and taking Quana with him, or I guess just leaving it to die, it sounds like the economy team is well on its way towards moving in a different direction. While not as involved as Quana, it does sound like the impact, at least for the players, will be similar. Hopefully we hear more about this because the economy is kind of bland at the moment. There's not a lot of reasons to pick different routes, and outside of this commodity is worth more than that commodity, the profit is higher. There's no real reason to run something low cost but important like aluminum or hydrogen, for example. We also don't have manufactured items really in the mix, so no computer boards, ship parts, prisoners, livestock, glass. You get the idea. It's bland. I guess that's what I mean. Anyways, they're working on making the player impact on the economy more impactful and longer lasting, and are tweaking supply and demand. It'll be interesting to see how they balance that out as player counts continue to rise. That was one thing about Tony Z's model, as complex as it was. Every commodity ended up mattering, and what players focused on or didn't focus on would have a huge impact on what the NPCs and the economy focused on. The mission design team has obviously been real busy this year, knocking out a new location, new event, new sandbox activity almost every month. They've definitely had more hits than misses too, at least in my opinion. No surprise, but a lot of time was spent on the ASD facilities for the wrap up of that storyline. At least the parts that'll take place or took place in Stanton and Pyro. Obvious giant wink at Nyx. Sounds like they started removing factions players don't work with and adding in ones we do. I'm guessing that's factions like Hurston or ArcCorp and the like that are being removed, and groups like Foxwell being added in. They said they're working on bounty missions, but maybe it's just me. There seems to be kind of slim pickings in the bounty world outside of bounty hunting other players. Wrapping it up, they worked with the engineering team to get spawn closets working consistently, and then more bug smushing. They're working on scripts for new dynamic conversations, a new Kovalex wrap, vendors and customers, which is interesting. Maybe more to do at Gundo Kovalex? Maybe? Eventually? Guess we'll find out. They're also working on branding and storytelling in several upcoming levels. It's interesting that they use the word levels and not sites or locations, which might suggest more activity existing locations like the ASD facilities or even distribution centers. I know Space Tomato is thinking it's the last one, and I'm kind of with him with that on that right now. Other than that, yeah, just stabilizing, updating, and bug smushing. Several mentions of panic migration from one system to another. That sounds real ominous, CIG, but I'm guessing that probably had to do with the backdoor that the hackers were using, although I thought that was a couple months back. Otherwise, yeah, stabilizing, bug smushing, you get the idea. Rolling these two together again, R&D is exploring more performance options and focused on optimizing, while VFX worked on the Apollo and the finishing touches on the ASD facility. They spent the latter part of the month focusing on CitCon and IAE vehicles, as well as coming locations and missions. So lots of stuff in the works. I'm still not 100% sure what we'll see with Sitcon though. What are you all thinking? You think it'll be more working demos, or you think it'll be what we've seen previously at other Sitcons and like Thursday shows like Around the Verse with dev interviews interspersed with some B-roll here and there? Anyways, that's all I got for this one, gang. If you made it this far, please consider liking and subscribing, and see me next time.